Good evening, everyone. Hi, Wendy. Have you got my uploads on Instagram on speed dial? You have never failed to be about the first person to like them. I've got to ask you, how are you managing to do that? John, good evening to you. I'm fine. How are you, sir? Luke, good evening to you. James, good evening. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, hopefully we're going to get on to doing a nice one. This has been requested, so we will hopefully have a bit of fun with that one. So I hope everyone's having a good day. I have had a great day, as it happens. So yes, all good. Lovely sunny day. Been out painting all day and had a great time. Right, I'll wait a few minutes, and the concurrents seem to be going up and down a little bit. I'm not quite sure why that is, but maybe people dipping in and out. Maybe somebody's seen what I'm doing and said, oh no, I can't put up with that. There you go. No, it's just no when you put them on, and I thought I'd check you hadn't forgotten. Cool, thanks ever so much. Appreciate that so much. It's a good day. Been a lovely hot day. Bit windy. But I hope everyone is enjoying themselves. I too enjoyed your mimic panel video. Oh, yes, I forgot I put that out. I wasn't sure about it for a while. Guys, I put it out because I've been meaning to put it out for several months, to be quite honest with you. I had so much footage that I ended up leaving off all the time lapse. But I found a much better way of doing things. So that will, I'll start employing that very, very soon. But yeah, I finally cobbled together and chucked a whole load of footage out and come up with that. I know it's a little bit too long, but hopefully people can forgive that, and I hope it was enjoyable enough to get to the end. Or otherwise you all went to sleep, one or the other. Derek, good evening to you, sir. Where did I go painting? Well, it was a good session, Wendy. I'll tell you why. Because what it was my son with his cameras and his gimbals and his film stuff, and his other good friend who I know, his school friend who's gone on to become a filmmaker, and is a freelance independent filmmaker based in London, came down, and between them they've taken a whole load of footage of me in 3 different locations, including using the drone, and it's been a whole day. I'm sorry, I'm a bit tired. It's been a whole day filming this stuff. We did one film at the bridge on the canal below the zoo. I stood on the bridge, and that's where we used the drone. We then did one up on the bluffs overlooking the Romney Marshes, and then I did one over the beach to end with, but by that time it got really windy and it wasn't the best, but it was okay. So they are now busy editing and playing around, and all this is for is about a 10-20 second professionally done intro to all my painting channels, which will become synonymous with my branding. I hope that's the idea behind it, so we'll see. I did like the panel in operation and the effect it has on the layout with trains moving if possible. Yeah, sorry. I just reread that, John. Yes, I'll do that. I've got a. I wanted to get this out because I had not done enough to the layout to do a little update. Um, and I've been promising John and those guys up at Concepts to put this out for some time. So hopefully that's sort of sorted that out. I also want to film the smaller one where we actually do the programming as well. But yes, I will put a video out, I hope, the end of the week, maybe early next week, or over the weekend if I can. And that will be like a mini update with one or two things that are going on. And we can then, yeah, we can get it running, a few trains running as a result of that. So that's a good idea, and I'll make that happen. Right, I suppose I better start yabbering and crack on with the job in hand, which is, we've just gone 7. We are up to 10 people. Teresa, good evening to you. So I'm going to get on, and this was requested by one of our patrons from America, and so hopefully she's sitting on the side and having a look, and not quite sure the time zone where she is, what she's doing. And I have got a lot of drink with me. I do have a lovely special brew pale ale I was bought today, so I didn't drink it while I was driving, so I'm enjoying it now. That does taste good. Alright, so we better crack on. So as always, I am going to be drawing in my umber and break that out. That's got a bit stiff in the heat of the day. So I'm using just normal umber. Now this particular oak tree is Bramley, good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us. And Joan, thank you very, very much for joining in. And good to see you here too. Keeping an eye on the chat a little bit. And already it's gone below, so I'm making sure that I haven't missed anything. Nope. Alright, so this particular oak tree, I've painted it several times in the past. And it's an enormous oak tree. And don't know how old it is, but it stands in the field behind Saltwood Castle. Now, if anyone knows Saltwood or the area of Saltwood, the castle is a very, very old piece. In fact, it's the castle that was used by the knights who slayed Thomas à Becket. They slept there the night before their dastardly deed, and it's had a marvellous history over the years, and it's owned currently by a lovely lady whose husband's family had it before, and when he passed, of course, she took it on. Anyway, I've painted this several times. I've painted this in autumn, winter, summer. I've stood up to my knees in snow painting it, in big snow drifts and wind, so it's one of those. So it's a lovely tree, but I thought I would just paint it tonight and have some fun. Alright, so I'm going to keep a very, very low horizon with the umber. Let it come through the dip and up the other side on the rise. And that we will put a little mark there, which will be our sort of edge of our nice dippy track up there. I've walked up there many times with the dogs, and then the hill goes over the top. Now there is hills beyond, but because of this angle you can't see any of them. So let us look at our tree. I'm just going to put it right high up on the bank there, and I'm going to put the top finishing about there. That's my intent, and I'm just going to sort of draw in, and I do mean just basic shapes, just to give me the form of this tree. Got a bit of a lean to it, or seems to have a little lean to it, but I'm just coming down with the basic shape. It really protrudes over this way and down through there. I'm just literally leaving paint marks. I'm not really doing too much in the way of drawing, just trying to give myself the basic shape of this tree before we go in with all the darks, and then further on to that the lights. Let's bring it all the way down here, very, very low down through here and down there, and you can barely see the shape of the trunk, which is a massive trunk, like so. Put that down like that. You don't see too much of the trunk going up through. One or two places you'll see it somewhere about there, but predominantly it is a dark mass of leaves, but we do want to fill it with one or two what I call sky holes. So we will put those in and put a little bit of a mark over there, just give that a bit of shape there. And we will come through there, just literally checking and playing around. We can alter any of this really, but I want to get the dark shape in. There's nothing worse than trying to paint the dark over the light once it's in place, because you're just going to have such an awful job trying to do that. Bring that down through here and keep checking and keep looking at all the wonderful little shapes and forms of this tree, like so. There is some other structure, something behind there. It's not all the tree at that point, and we have this wonderful chance of putting in. Oh, are we lagging already? I seem to be lagging. I don't quite know what's going on. I seem to have a bit of a lag on my end. I hope that's not affecting the stream. It is. Great. Can everybody still hear me? I hope you can. I seem to have lagged a little bit there and everything went off for a moment. I do hope we're not going to have a repeat of my Sunday night, which caused a few problems, but that was predominantly down to me. I didn't think that this would cause any issues at all tonight, but we'll carry on and hopefully that doesn't cause any further disruption. Right, okay, so we have lost a couple, I think, but hopefully they didn't see a problem. Right, okay, what I was alluding to is that we have this wonderful situation where we can put this beautiful shadow in on this and bring it up and down, and that is, so it tells me that the light is coming definitely from that way there. That's where the light's coming from, everything on this side, and it's casting the beautiful shadow of this oak tree all the way down through here on the bank that it stands upon and off to the edge there. And then this bank sort of comes all the way down, way down, like so, into a little valley before it then starts to ascend up the track to that point out through the back there. And then the hill, this hill sort of comes actually a lot further over than I suggested it. So let's bring that into there like that. Bring our track up a little higher. Take our hill, continues going up a little pace, and then flattens out about there. Okay. Good. I'm glad I'm still here. I can hear, but could not. Could you? But could be louder. All right. I can change the loudness, or I can increase the decibels. That's probably as loud as I can make it. Hopefully that little extra is enough. Just checking up top. We seem to be working up there. Okay. All right. Now then, I'm going to carry on just checking the shape of this. I think it could come out a little bit more this way. and a little further down there, and a little further out this way because I'm not giving it enough. So I think that needs to come out there more, and that can come out certainly this way more. That can have a bit more height on it there, and a bit more shape there. Getting a little bit more confident with the way it's going down on the paper. I don't want to get too tight to this side. There's more on the side here. Could have brought this over a little bit more if honest, but I wanted it on one side so I could make something more of the clouds in the background. And let's just bring that through. Nice sort of shape through here. It does actually have a lot more on this side than I realise. So let's come back in with that. And it then comes up a little bit more abrupt, but then over again, like so. And this is all I'm doing, is just checking my drawing. There's a little bit there, and then another section there, and again I'm just going to bring that up. I've got to be careful I don't go too high with this, but I think that's probably a little closer to where we should be with it. That could possibly come in a bit there, just take a little bit away. Now this canvas is a canvas board, but it's also a natural canvas, which is great. And I just like the way this natural canvas works. I use quite a bit of it these days, and it does work very, very well. Now as regards the rest of this drawing, we better make some attempt at that. So let's bring our little track down through the little fence, and it angles down this track like so. And there is a lot of waste debris from the farm just sitting around here in the base of this field. You can see the way the track comes. I need a bit more paint to do this. There is a lovely bank that runs down through here like so, and little bits of stuff going on here, and fence posts through there like that. And then this track opens up at this point. It's full of puddles normally in winter, and there's lots of bits of debris, as I say just now, bits of old trees and trunks and pipes and all sorts of laying in here, but I'm not proposing to put those in. I'm just going to make this fairly generic grasses and brush and rough ground in the foreground here, and that pretty much sets that up. I don't think I need to try and draw in any of my clouds. In fact, I'm not going to bother with that. Okay, we are lagging again. What the heck is going on? I seem to be lagging and I don't understand what's going on. Can people hear me? All I've got is an ever running circle, but it tells me I've got an excellent connection, so I really have no idea what's happening. No, it's not. It's not that at all. It's just the local farm just drops stuff there, I think. I've never seen fly tipping going on there. It's not easily accessible in that regard. There is a big farm gate that they would have to get through and to gain access. Is my painting, am I still frozen? I seem to be frozen. And yet we are... okay, well it just must be me then. I'm going to carry on. Okay, so I assume that you can see the whole of the drawing at this point. I don't know, it must just be lagging for me. I really don't know. Bear with me, people. I'm just going to go on my iPad and kick up the feed so I have a better idea of what I can see on what's going on. So bear with me. We will get to the bottom of it. There never seems to be a stream goes by without a problem. It's very, very frustrating, and not just for me, but for you guys too. So let's just see if we can fire up and find the YouTube. My internet does seem to be very, very slow here. Right, I'm going to leave that and glance at it now and again, but let us see. Okay, well, I've lagged on my main screen, but I do seem to be okay with what's going on the other screen. So I'm going to continue, and hopefully whatever it is, it will resume itself, and I have no idea why, but there we are. Okay, so assuming that you are getting all of this, and I'm not just talking to myself, I'm going to proceed as though you are. So I'm going to mix up some phthalo blue, some white, and I'm going to use a little bit of cobalt blue into that mix, and give me my basic darker sky color up in here. Now, the thing about this is that I want to make it a little darker. I want to make it a little more violet in the very top. That just really gets that dark sky in. It is violet, and you might be right in saying, well, why is it violet? It should be blue. But that blue will come down, and that violet will not seem so much like violet, but it will, I hope, look and really throw out the cloud that I'm going to put in there. So it's a big old sprawling mass of a cloud that's winding up from the base all the way through the top here. I'm going to carry on with that. Bring it down, and as it comes down, I'm going to add a little bit more white to the blue, not so much of the violet blue, but let that come down in here and start picking out. There's a lot more cobalt in that than I first allowed. So let's come back with some more cobalt into that and bring that all the way up into there, and then take it down to even more pale. I'm going to introduce maybe a tap of lemon yellow right into the base down here, so that it does really look quite pale on the skyline or on our horizon line, and just leave it at that point there. Now, sometimes this canvas does need a little bit of work to get all the little sort of dark dots that appear, because it's a natural canvas, to get them fill out and get rid of them. So just be aware of that. I'm just going to come into the edge of this tree here. I will have to take that sort of down there and lose some, but I just wanted to get that colour in that works up to that part of the field there. Okay, and take that out from that lemon, come back into some of that blue and start bringing that into play, and we've got a nice sets of blue in here right up to the edge of the tree here, like that. And we're going to come back in and do the very much the same on this side, quite pale down through there. Now that's the bank, so I'm going to bring that down, because what I have omitted to add in, of course, is the hill continuing over the other side. So let's just, I did wonder where I was going wrong with that, but let's just put that in there. So there is the top of our field. Let that run through there like so. And then our field on this side will continue on behind the tree and end up like that. And then we've got the top of the ridge there. Okay, now we're back on schedule. Let's bring that light into that area. And we've got some clouds to put in there later, not a problem. I'm just using the brush in very, very general marks at the moment. A little bit of light in through there. We can just pick that out as well. And we'll kind of put some back in there for now. A little bit in there. And we're going to take that above and out through there. We've got a big old cloud in that part. So let's take some of that off. And look at the structure of this again. Just take some of that, blend some of this away. Take that to that side, into the tree. It comes into there, and so does the cloud come into that part. That's not a problem. I'm going to take that in there like that, and then take this blue, which should be going back into that darker stuff there. Take that way. We're going to play around with that later on, but for now we've got the rough idea of our cloud. So I'm going to clean my brush out thoroughly, and we will go in with a stronger white, but that white's going to have a little bit of lemon yellow, not that much, a little bit less than that, a little tap of cadmium yellow deep. It gets enough on my brush. It's stiffening up. It's got a little skin on it from being used the other day. In fact, I was using this on yesterday, so it's skinned up quite quickly. Now I want to put in a strong white all the way through here. There's a little bit of contamination in my brush. I'm assuming you're still getting this, but my computer absolutely seems to have frozen, and I dare not touch it or do anything to it. So I can't see the stream in the normal way from here, but I'm glancing at my monitor, my iPad, and it's showing the stream as it should be. So all's good, I'm guessing. Right, just gonna like fan some of that around. Just play around with that and let that come into the top of our tree in one or two places, because I want to not oversaturate this light into it so that I can't do anything with the darks further on. It does come down here, and there is some other subtle shapes there with this cloud, and it comes into the area of the tree in about there. So that's fine, no problems with that. We'll take it all the way across, and we'll take it into a fairly straight line. Now this is not the finish line of our cloud at all. This is merely just to show us the shape generally and get the bulk of this light color all the way through down the edge here, and then we will start playing around with teasing that out and making more of the cloud as we go further along. Lots of lovely lights down the side of it, which we do need to keep there and keep in place. A little light down through here. Now I've got to check the, because I can't check, try refresh button on your main screen. I'll do that. I hope to God it doesn't cause a problem. But let's just refresh. Reload the page. There we go. Probably lost all of you now. Well, we're back. Wendy, I'm thankful to you for that. I had no idea, but thank you for that. Just checking everything else. Have I missed anything? Joan, try being a Martian signals. Yeah, I get that. Computer is fine, looks good. Okay, well, I'm back on my screen. So, yeah, thank you, Wendy. You now got a new job as my IT executive. So, right, I'm just going to come down. The shape of this, it's got quite a flat area here, which we need to keep, and the little bit of there, and one or two puffy little bits that I'm going to just suggest as they're building up to there on the base like this, and one or two through there, across the top of there, a larger one in there. Now it's getting very contaminated with the blue paint. Don't worry, we can go back and we can increase that later on. We're not too worried about that. We're just giving an indication at this point on where we need the whites to really be, and coming across and into the tree at that point, like so. Big one over here, which we'll put in right now. Nice big white statement. There are greys, there are other subtle colors that take it away from the pure white, but let's just get this basic color in, and we've got a little tap of lights coming through here, which we're going to leave those at the point. We don't want to go too mad with those. Bit of white underneath there, and right along this horizon there are 1, 2 more. Okay, let's leave it like that. Okay, I've got blue paint all over. I don't know where that's all come from. I've absolutely put on a brand new t-shirt today. It's absolutely now covered in paint from 3 sessions outside and the start of this one in here. So, never know. It's the way it is. What's in a t-shirt? I'll soon be monetized on this channel, and we're going to afford a new one over the next few months, so I look forward to that. Have I missed anybody coming in with all these little bits of lagging going on? Have I missed anybody? I don't think so. I think I've said hello to everybody. Okay, so let us look back at some of our blues. Now I'm going to just tap in a little bit of a lighter blue coming into here. Take that out through there. Just making 1 or 2 subtle changes to some of the colours we're seeing. And I'm quite happy with that at the moment. I just want to do more here. I just sense that there's a little bit more green in this blue here, and I just want to suggest that, in, especially into there, as that comes down like that. I can take that into that point, and we can play around and change the whites, as I said, all the way along. It's not a problem. A bit more white. Just take that blue way out to an almost nothingness. Very, very soft, lovely greenish pale blue on the horizon. Take that through there and down into there. Okay, let's just check this area. It could be a little paler. I'm going to take that into there through this section here, up through there, and stop about there. Alright, not a problem. There are some other tats. We're going to put those in a little later. I just want to give an idea of that. Alright. Assuming I haven't missed any chat, I think the last one was Sue. So that's good. Right, now let's get some body going in here. So let's come in with a real dark. And our real dark is going to be made up primarily of ultramarine blue. And I'm using oxide of red. Now you can quite happily use burnt sienna if you have an oxide of red. And I'm just going to come and keeping my brush as sort of not wet with lots of medium. I just want to get in a very, very dark base into here. You could have suggested why didn't I do that to begin with. I was feeling my way. I wanted to get the drawing about right, set up how I want it to look before I started committing with real dark punchy colour. So I'm going to come down through here, just checking 1 or 2 of the ways of the draw, you know, the way the drawing's gone, leaving 1 or 2 of these little dark, little light sky holes that are the bigger ones, and they will lead me to add more, but they will give me an indication where they're going through roughly. So it doesn't matter if you scrub some out at all. That really isn't that important. I'm just using very, very angular shapes to suggest our tree right now. Excuse me. Take that down there and come in through here. we got this little section down, right down low to the trunk. And let's bring the trunk in very, very dark, very beautiful, like so. Let's take this dark way up in here. Now it needs to be a lot darker than I've given it. So let's come back in. Where some of this picked up some of the light, it's actually diffusing the dark. So let's just come in there with a real punchy dark, maybe even a lot more blue into that. Really knock it back down into darkness, as it were. It's the under canopy of this tree, and we don't want to mess that up. Down here equally now, just want to check what I've got to do here. I think it's coming down in here like so, and lots of little shapes of dark and light that we will utilize and put in further along. But let's just get all this blocked out with a very, very heavy dark. Don't worry about all the sky holes, they will be administered to further in. Let's put that lovely shape out there on the top. Almost another shape in there, and I've allowed a little area or two to remain unpainted, and they will be made use of further on. So I'm just looking and refining my shapes now, just checking that I haven't gone too far one way or indeed another. There is that shape there, and we've got a dark in here like so. And it's quite a heavy dark green in there, and it's going to show up against the background of the sky. I have painted this so many times, this tree. I love it. It is such a remarkable tree. There is the other end of town, the other end of Saltwood, up by the church at Saltwood, which is probably trying to think off the top of my head, probably about half a mile along as the crow flies. There is another, up past the church, you go out towards the old railway cuttings of the branch line that once ran from Sandling to Hythe. There is another oak, and that oak has got the centre hollowed out. It's even bigger. I don't know if it's taller, but it certainly looks as though it could well be older. It seems to have had a lightning strike in the past, and it's had a situation where it sort of split it, but it's carried on growing, and you've got this sort of hollow shell, and everything still grows, and the branches lean out and come down to the ground. It's a wonderful old oak. And you know, I've never actually painted that one. I've always gone for this one. I'm going to put in my dark for my shadow on this hill, or on the actual ridge that this is growing partly on, and that will come up under here. Yeah, sorry, I digress. It's a wonderful, the other one's a wonderful tree. I must actually make time to go and paint it. Some pure blue going in there over the top, some pure ultramarine blue. Really does just kick that dark. That's good. Okay. Now, I'm not quite sure what's there. I think it's part of the tree, but it's possible that I've mistaken something and I sort of need to go back in there. But I'm going to treat it as part of the tree for the purposes of this. I'm going to take that line of the dark at the top there in that way. I'm just going to come down here and suggest little bits and taps in here as this disappears, little bits of hedgerow going on out into the distance. And one or two darks, I'm just going to put those in just to suggest the track. And I am just playing around with lines. They don't actually exist. I'm just suggesting that there might be a little cart track from a tractor or something that keeps going up the lane, up this track. It is wide enough to take a tractor. There are fields all the way over the top, and this actually ends up at I think it's called Roundhouse Hill at the back of Cheriton, and you can keep just going on it and keep walking, and yeah, there's a big set over the back there. It's quite interesting because the ground dips down where this line here is. The ground goes away down another valley and up the other side, and then you come to a big ravine. You walk down into that and up, and you've got this big, it's almost like a sand cliff, but the grass is loose in the sand, and it's amazing. And you get to the top of that, and then you can see all the way through to Cheriton and all the way across the Channel coastline of the Romney Marshes, and it's fantastic. But I'm just literally coaxing in little suggestive marks. I'm not actually creating anything. I'm putting shadowy darks in, but your brain probably, if I'm not mistaken, is already filling in some of the dots for me. And you know, when it comes to it, you're going to have little bits of grass tufts and all sorts of little things in your head that you can see within these marks. But the painting is pretty much painting itself in that regard. Does the board have clear gesso on it? Yes, it does, Wendy. It does have clear gesso. I'm not sure of the type. This is a branded one. I can't remember the company. I think it's, yes I do. It's, oh, heck, it's a German company. Gierstaker, something like that. They make pretty much all of these natural canvases, from stretch ones to the boards. And yeah, I use them a lot. And in fact, the last tree one that I've just sold is on one of those. They're lovely canvases. Right, okay, so I'm just going to come in with a bit of a corrupted violet. There's a little bit of the one that I had before for the sky, but I've actually now added a tiny bit of cadmium red into that. I'm going to add a tap of the green into that, which incidentally is not my normal phthalo green. This is one that I've pretty much changed to at the moment, which is cobalt turquoise, and that just gives me a dirty color that I can start bringing up into this massive cloud. I just want to break out some color there, just subtle little tints, little blends, little tints that allow me to suggest these other grays within the sort of cloud that is welling up from, emanating from here and welling up over here. I'm going to bring some into this part here, and we can make some of them deeper, and it's not a problem. We will just keep going on and build and carry on building, and don't want to pick too much of the tree up in terms of color. We will contaminate our clouds, and we don't really want to do that. I'm just going to bring some more color in there. It's way too much red, but we can get rid of that. Cobalt blue, tap of the green. Check where we are with that color. That's not far off, that's good. We can use that. Come in here and put a little grayer mark in one or two of these areas. Again, if the area here is too much, we can always come back with some white. It's not a big deal. Let's just check a real dark accent through the center of this, on this part here, which I want to put that in. Big, bold, dark mark, and that does come all the way into the edge of this tree at this point. We're going to do that, and we're going to make some sort of big statements with this color, like so. It's going to drag some off, but the dark of the grey is more than able to soak that up, and you're not going to really notice it. Okay, like so. Alright, that's good. Come back with a bit more of the blue. Right blue. A touch of the green. Not too much. We don't want to make a big green colour, but it's just nice to have that extra bit. Just check in. No, that's all good. Right. So we're going to come a little further down with this dark mark, but I have made it a little greener, but I'm actually not worried about that. I quite like that extra because it's a little bit pinker there, a little bit greener, and the greys that we use are, I call them colorimetric greys. Now, I don't think that word actually exists, but I've said it for years. And the thing is that, you know, greys tonally are one thing, but greys that are made of colours are a completely different animal, and they really do have a great sort of variation, warms and cools. subtle tints. They really do work very, very nicely. I'm just going to bring that out there and give a subtle light colour that just permeates back in this way. Some of that white can come back in over the top and just gently come in there, and then it can sort of fade away to nothingness out there, and we've got that little differential in the cloud, and again where it comes out this side. So I'm just going to bring that, actually I got it way over here. I sort of I need to make this much bigger. I just realized, okay, I'm just looking at that quickly. I'm going to come in there with that and make that bigger and bolder, that statement into there, like so. And I'm going to mix up some more colour. I can see that it wasn't quite where it should be. A little bit of the green into that, not too much. And let's just come back in and re-look at that shape. Okay, that's okay. I'm not unhappy with that. Tap more green into that. And just come back in through the center there. I didn't see that with the drawing. Crazy, isn't it? You sit right on top of it and you don't realise. But there we go. Hopefully that's got that fairly corrected. And we can come across, my paintbrush was a little bit too wet then from stuff. Let's just clean it out and give it a thorough drying. Okay, so we're going to look into carrying on with these colours. A little bit more red, a little bit more of that, and a bit more of that green coming in. Way too much green. Let's come back, track a little bit. And let's look at these shapes down through here. That actually could do very nicely in there. That little heavier mark that I've just put in works very well through this section. You can see a little dominance of the green then, which we've now lost, but it was there for a second or two. And take that through there like that. Bit more blue. Come in here, lose some of this, but these I'm going to make fairly bold statements, little lines through here that are fairly representative of what we're seeing at this point. Some lovely little subtle shapes, and we can tap around with these now and just break them up so they're not sort of just square shapes or blunt ends, as it were. They do have purpose for being there. And just that lovely little shape out there. Every time you go dark to light or light to dark, you're going to pick up the other colour. So be aware of that when you put your brush down for the next time. You may well add something that you didn't really want there. I'm just going to add a little bit more of this dark through there. Okay, and there are some paler versions. Let's just bring some of that into that violet, but just bring them into some of these subtle greys in through the clouds right down low on the horizon. And they all need to be just very, very subtle touches. They don't need to be very strong as these ones are, just very subtle. And bubbling up into this one, just a little lovely shape. Take it away, and the more you blend it, of course, the more it will disappear. And in there. Just picking up little bits here, a little bit there. There's just enough white there to suggest another cloud welling up. And if we put a little bit of grey into there, it further adds to that sense of more clouds in the distance. A little bit darker just on this one maybe. There we go. Maybe a little bit more blue coming into that mix. Wouldn't be bad. And let's put some weight under some of these ones. Tap them away, and we've got to address more on this side too. So we're going to come, it needs a heavier, darker base, so let's come in with some more blue, a bit of the red coming into it, a bit of the green. Right, so quite a deep colour, and let's just come in through here. take that all the way into the tree at this point. There's another darker shape of one underneath. Let's put that in. And one or two just very faint again, similar to these ones over here. It's a little bit too strong, we can lose that there, it's not a big deal. Just one or two suggestions that there are clouds right down on the horizon, like that. Okay, I'm going to take a little glug, if that's okay. Michael, thank you for dropping by. Appreciate that. You're never too late as long as you turn up. That's all good stuff. And you can always catch up with the first part further on. Not a problem. How long have we been going for? Nearly an hour. Okay, so we've still got a fair bit to do. Right, so I'm going to work on some lighter values. I'm going to put some of this white into some of these blues that we've had. The grey blues and made them very, very soft greys now. I want to bring those into the upper portions of this cloud, like so, and they will blend with these ones here, and I intend that to happen. Not a problem. I don't want the same grey, I just want the sense of this thing welling up, dark patches, light patches, whatever. And it's going to go into some of those yellows. Again, it doesn't really make an awful lot of difference at all. What I don't want is that. That was a bit of a foolish thing. We can get rid of it, but it will give that little warmish look. So to combat that, we can come back in with some of this grey blue, and that should take out all of that green, or predominantly most of that brown colour. And we can come back in later and play around with that. But there is definitely a little warm influence there that, through being a little careless, could have been avoided. Alright, we will press on though. I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to come in with a few lights back into some of these greys. I want to come in with a few of these soft greys as they push out towards the edge of the cloud. You can see my brush marks, they're going all over the show. They're just creating these lovely angular patterns, and you can have hard edges and you can have soft ones. It really doesn't make any odds. It's, you know, how you want to portray the cloud, and I've done it both ways in the past, and both ways really can work. Okay. Some could argue that one way is a little bit more artsy in some ways. I don't sort of hold within it. It's really how you want to render it and make it work for you. And I think, as I said, they do both work. I'm going to come in with a little bit touching into some of that. As I touch that brown, I'm just taking the brush away and cleaning it a little bit, just to make sure I don't do what I did up here and create myself a real problem. Now this comes down a lot lower, so I'm going to bring that grey into this portion of the cloud, and we're going to take that out in that way. We'll come back in with the white. I just want to suggest that this is bluish against all of that nice brown, or what will eventually be green, of the tree. So it's got a lovely sense of feeling through here. And actually it picked up a little bit of brown then, but I'm not too worried about that. It really just lifted that sense of this bringing up through here. So I'm not unhappy with that at all. I'll take some in through here as well, which has already been touched with that brown, and that didn't cause too much of a problem. I'm going to take that away though, because I did pick up a little bit then. I didn't want to deposit where I don't want it to be. Little touches, little bits of blue, little bits of grey, and they just add to the sense that this thing is building. Quite a bluish colour through there. I'm going to bring that in. A little bit of green, a little bit of red. And let's just come in here with that darker value there. Okay, we can look back on this in a little while and see if we need to do more. And I'm sure there will be more. There's always something that you need to just change and make a little different. But for the short term, I think we're okay. I'll lighten that a little bit there. It's a little bit heavy. Take that off a bit lighter there too. Down to there, and that ends in that dark. So let's just bring that down through there, and that in a little dark statement at the base of that cloud. We can make it darker if we need to, but now let's turn our attentions to the hills. Okay, now then, nice oatmeal colour. So I'm going to use a yellow, which is going to be cadmium yellow deep, quite a bit of white in there, and a little tap of, I think, going to use naphtha red, and that just gives me that sort of pinky glow. Now that's not our corn colour, is it? So we're going to come back in with some more white off to one end, a bit more yellow into it, and we're slowly moving it. Now this awful white at the front here is still very stiff, but I have fresh white here, which is moving away, and I'm just changing the colour more and more to make my lovely colour on the hills. Now that is a little on the greenish side, and that's good. In fact, I'm just going to make it a little more so. Now the blue or violet into that yellow colour is killing it down a bit. It's not as vibrant as I first started, but I'm not unhappy with that either. I really want this. It's going to appear very, very light anyway, and that's the sort of colour that I was seeking to be the tops of my fields. So I'm going to break that all the way through there, along the edge up to there, and down the side of this field. Now it comes sharp there. It has, as I say, a fairly funny, a fairly jagged look, and it comes out that way. Take that off and come back in there with that shape. Comes in with that little angle, and that comes pretty much all the way down to the grasses in the foreground, which we're going to leave that there, bring this all the way down to them and to meet them, and that's pretty much it. There will be one or two subtle changes with light running through like this, which are suggestive of contours, a little bit of light there, maybe a little bit of a darker flush through there, which is suggesting that there is a contour in the hills, in the the hill as it's coming away, and a bit like there. And let's repeat this idea over here. Now I know I've got a lot more hill here than here. I'm not worried about that. Yes, one could argue that I should have brought this over a bit more, but I quite like what it's doing, and that's fine. I'm not worried about it at all. So let's bring that up to there. In fact, I want to bring that there. Take that all the way through, and then bring that to that point, like so. Take that down the side and up the field air on there, and we get that contour. And we're going to look to a little bit of a tap in one or two places here. Just going to deposit that there for the moment, and then going to look at this part of the hill through here, behind the tree. The way it comes down and gives me lovely little shapes in the hedgerow at this point on the ridge. Maybe a little warm up through there. Tap a little bit of yellow into that, and the yellow I'm using for this is the oxide yellow. Oxide yellow is a transparent oxide, the same as oxide red is, and I suppose it's like a more coloured, more transparent version of raw sienna. Not quite, but almost. I'm going to suggest the contour line up into the field and leave that pretty much as is now. I'm going to come in and dirty the mix. I'm put a bit of magenta into this here, a little bit of the blue, and let's get in part of our foreground, and let's put in our track. very, very rosy, very, very warm at this stage. Don't worry about that. We can temper that. That's very warm, isn't it? Now let's just come in with some blue, and all of a sudden we've tempered our track colour, because we've used complementaries working with the yellowy oranges here, and we put a violet blue in, and that will just alter what you're seeing. But I don't need to worry about too much of it yet. I'm still going to go in and put in the predominance of colour we have, and then we can change anything else we wish to further on. Let's take our track to a point of where it becomes a green track, and take it out so far, and then we'll just forget about it for now. We just put a base colour in, which is quite a nice colour too. I'm quite enjoying that colour. Right, okay, another glug comes on. I hope it's all going well, and it seems that everything is caught up now. That little glitch, thank you very much, Wendy, for ironing that out. I didn't know that could happen, and I didn't know the problem was so easily solved. Okay, let's make the first of our greens. Let's come in with contaminated green, which I didn't really like to happen, but there you go. I'm going to put in some cad yellow medium, and I'm going to look at that green for a second or two, put it in, test it. It's a very strong green, but we've got very strong greens in this bank. One could put in a bit more yellow and take it off to one side, make it a little bit more light and acidic, like so. Put it in, and we can play around with the components of this further in. Just for the moment, we just want to put it in place and block it into where we're going to roughly be with it all. Like so, down through there onto the edge of that. Lovely. We're going to pick that up again. Don't worry about the fact that we've just lost the shape and sharpness of our beautiful green edge. Now I'm going to pick up this green, and I'm going to actually drop in a little bit of pink, and that will mix together and give me a nice light flush to my green, but it still looks green, but we put some light to that. So by using a mid green, and we've then used a little bit of the pink color, which is lighter by contrast, it does make the fact that the green is there and the sun is hitting it. You can do that with the darker green. You can put dark green in there, a little bit of that pink. It will affect it, will control it like that. Just running it all the way down through and up to there, so we get the sense of that trackway, which has lost all the sense of the light between it. We can run a little pencil line through further on if we feel the need. Take that all the way down like so, and then up to this point here where we've got lovely greens working in the edge of this field. Weedy bits, the rubbish and all that sort of stuff, we can just bring that into there. Take that in one or two places. Now you can see that the darks that I put in there are actually working for me, I hope anyway. Little tappy little block marks of colour as that runs off and out of sight onto the side of the picture at that point. One or two cooler greens can come in, a bit more of that blue coming into the mix if you wish to. We can change the shape of this green here and make that look like there, a bit of a bank, and we can come in with some more lights in here, and we can take that out and take the vibrancy of that piece out there. All of these little things are changing the shape and the contours of what we're seeing in the green. Now there's nothing worse with green of becoming too consistently one color green. We love greens and we hate them. The wrong greens in an English, lovely English landscape can render the thing dull and pretty much lifeless, and it will result in a no sale when it comes to your painting if you want it to be found a new favoured home with somebody else other than yourself. So that is well worth considering, that greens are really hard to get right sometimes, but when you do, they work nicely, and you should take time to work them and they are not one or one. It's not one blue and one yellow. It's not one type of green. I see lots of people use things like sap greens and stuff all the time, and although they do have a place in a palette, I personally used to use it. I don't use it, haven't done for donkey's years, but it has uses, and yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's another green, but to use it almost entirely in difference to other values of green, then no, that's when it becomes not good. I'm going to put that into there like so and leave it. It's a little bit of rough area at the top of the bank. Okay, now we come to, we can finish this off later, and what we're going to be doing now is looking at our tree. And I'm going to start off with some cooler greens, and they will become richer later. I'm going to use some yellow and use some cobalt blue, and let's mix that down and see where our green is. Quite a nice green. Tap it against this. Now when you tap on here, because this is dark, the green is going to look quite bright. It may be what you want, it may not be. It may be that you decide that you've got to come off to one side and mix a more deep, vibrant green and put that next to it like that. And you can see the difference between the two greens. So you've got to decide where you want your greens to be. But up in here, they need to be dark enough so that when they hit that sky, they are still very, very dark compared to the clouds behind it. And here we're going to put in some more, and I'm just tapping, little taps of the brush, just breaking out the edges of our tree like that against that lovely sky. And I'm going to look at this shape, which has got a bit more of a point than I've given it there, so let's do that. Give this one a bit more of a beef up on this side. Tap in. Don't keep tap in the same place, because that will result in your green becoming a muddy brown, not what you seek to do. So let's come in with that colour. Going to be a bit more light running through there in a moment, but I'm just tapping in what I would call the initial green value of our tree. Looking at the little patterns that are created between that. We don't want to just go over the brown with green. There was little point. We may as well have just gone in with the green to start with. We need to allow some of that green to come popping through our lovely tree further in along the road. I'm just coming into the edge, carefully tapping away, creating a broken edge to our tree. Going across the top and looking again where we need to do some of those taps, and down through here. And now I've got this shape here a little bit out, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my finger, take that down, repair that in a moment. I'm just going to come in here with this other green. I'm going to use a lighter brush, smaller brush, just going to come in with some of those subtle greys in there if I can pick them up. Bring that in. It's got a little bit too much brown into that. I think that may well have had brown initially. Let's just come in with that colour and make that simple repair in that shape like that. Just check it, just make sure that it's where we want it to be in terms of the rest of this, so it blends away nicely. Okay, that's good. Alright, that worked, not a problem. Hold this in hand because I'm sure we're going to need it again. So let's just come back around and look at other big shapes. Let's come in here. It doesn't have to be all little taps. If you know you've got a predominance of this green, just come in with it. And you can always tap in some darks further on if you desire them, if you feel that they're needed. Join that through there. And just look at the lovely colour that's being formed. Now there is a very strong colour of green through here. Let's put that in. There are lots of little darks in between it though. It's not all just green. So be mindful. Let's bring some to the edge of this shape here. And then it comes round in a nice shape there. And light and dark through there. Okay, I'm going to get a bit dry, so we have another drink. Alright, moving on. Looking at some of these lights and darks. Lots of green, but also lots of brown. So there's also lots of what I call sky holes, and we'll get to those very soon. They really are pretty much the last part of our painting, the sky holes. Okay, now more green through here, and let's look at this shape, a big tap of green at that point. But looking at this shape, this comes out a little further here than this one does here, so let's just be careful we don't take it too far into the sky, like that, bringing it down, and it starts to come back in towards the tree and its trunk at this point. And it is also getting less and less green, so you're getting little taps of green, and then we've got a lot of darks underneath it. So I'm just going to suggest them and do very little more at this point with regards to that. Big green tap there, and just take some of that out and play around with that, make it fuse away or lose it. And down in here too. On this one's pretty much darker, so we're going to come in and put that dark as it is, like so, and just break some of that away into our skies, and pretty much leave it like that. Now where you do know you've got a heavy darks, we can come in with those heavy darks. You can add some of those blues, or even deep dark greens that are almost blue. You can't quite tell what's what, and they work very, very well in this fashion. And equally as much if you come back in and you've got this up in here, this is predominantly looking brown. Let's come in with a really dark colour of blues into there, and that gives us that lovely shape at the top of the tree. And I'm using extensively, I'm just using the green. There's enough green in my brush picking up, but there's an awful lot of ultramarine blue coming in. You can use some of that in here too. Lots of lovely deep colours, breaking up some of the outlines of some of these greener marks. They underpin some and overpaint others, and there's a lot of blue influence. I'm going to bring some of that through here. I'm still using pretty much the same brush. I know we did go to the small one for a couple of repairs, but pretty much it's the same. Coming down here with a few extra taps into there. Got a bit light there. We're going to play around with that in a little while. And we're going to bring that there. I'm going to use a rigger into some of these smaller areas at the bottom. Now I want to put this shadow in and bring back our trunk. They've got a little bit lost there. That's good. And we've got some branches there. I'm going to suggest one, but I will put them in with a rigger, to be honest with you. Little shape there of our shadow. Like so. Can't see too much detail in there. There's a little hump of grass there. That sort of comes forward and over and then down. And we've got several what I call little fingers of light there, or dark should I say. Comes off there. This is coming down further, almost into the edge of the grass. And through there like so. Down there a little bit, and that will go like that. Okay, I'm just fusing those areas together because you can't really see too much into them. And yeah, that's okay. Right, now I'm going to look at the greens finally on the edges over here. There's a big lovely set of green over here. A bit cooler than I've got maybe. Let's just bring that back to the cool. We can come in with some lights further on. And I'm just looking at the way this shape is here. And you've got the big shape here. And that's really just almost coming down to it in a way. Like that. Okay, now this is very, very close to becoming quite dangerous in terms of a lot of paint on here. And when you get too much paint on here, it can become very, very hard to control when you wish to add paint over paint. You just need to be aware of that. You do have to watch how much is being applied. And I'm sort of tending to put more on with this flat brush than maybe I would ordinarily do with a smaller brush. But that's not suggesting that you run and grab your tiny brushes for this job. I'm just putting a few taps in of lower branch leaves, and one or two here, just breaking up some of these outlines as we build our tree. There's a lot more going on up in here which I need to put in. Can't quite see what's going on. I've got a big glare of all the lights over the top. In fact, I haven't turned one of my main lights on. Let's just see how much of a difference that makes to what you're seeing. It certainly improves what I'm seeing. There you go. Hopefully that's a little easier to enjoy. So I don't know what happened with that. I completely forgot to turn one of my main lights on. So there you go. Hopefully that's better. Alright, I'm going to come in, and I can certainly see what I'm doing now. If I'm honest, I couldn't see what was going on with the little light that I had on. Was really not just enough to do the job. Now I'm going to come in with a smaller brush, and we seem to be lagging again. So I'm going to refresh this one, see if that works twice, Wendy. I hope it does. Bear with me. Okay, we shall see if that has returned. I think it has. That's good. Now I'm going to come in with a bit of a fresher green, just a little bit yellower, maybe a bit paler, a little bit whiter. I still don't want it washed out. I want it a nice fresh green. And I'm going to start looking at some of the highlight areas in here and just bring in one or two of these other little taps. Got to keep it fresh. Don't keep working it. As I said, we're already dangerously with a lot of colour on here already, so we do need to be a little wary of that. I just want to put some lights into one or two places that are really showing a little bit of light into this tree. And we're going to just move around the tree and add some of these beautiful greens that are catching the sun in one or two places. And this little filbert is actually what they call a long filbert. And a bit of light over here. And yeah, they just have a real nice spring to the brush itself. And they really work, leave a lovely little mark on the painting. So I'm using those quite extensively at the moment, along with my dagger brushes. Just coming off here and add some lovely colours and shapes and marks. At that point, trying to look and suggest some of the marks and shapes of these branches. I just keep want to come in because they are dark, they're not light, and that needs to have that little dark area put back in, especially around here, a little bit darker blues, and just break up some of the edge a little bit more. And make it look as though it's not just plonked on the end. Okay. So it's just a case now of working all the way around the tree and seeing what needs to be done in terms of shape and the breaking up of edges. There's the odd little mark here with tree branches and lower leaves. Break up. Just break up the line of what's going on. They're also going to be very, very dark. And come in with a real dark mark through here because they are in complete shade. Whatever these are in here, these little stray branches that have either broken down or or they could be little shrubs that are growing up next to the tree. I'm not too sure what they are, but whatever they are creating lovely little dark silhouettes in there. A little bit of light popping through there, which is fine. That's good. Just check one or two of these in here, and now we can actually put in one or two little fence marks that are on the edge of the ridge here. Leave them like that. We're not going to make too much of them. Hopefully that'll be fine. And just rough up the ground through here too. So a little bit of marks going on down the edge of the contour. We can make those a little warmer, like a little redder. Not that red though. A little warmer as they go down and away, like that. Not quite sure what you're seeing in terms of weeds or whatever they might be, but they go to nothing. You can't see anything. There's sort of quite a ridge of rubbish down the side of this field, or it could just be where the end of the corn field is, or whatever that is that's growing up there. But I'm not going to make too much of it. Just bring some of those lights and reds into the top of that ridge. A little bit of difference in some of those greens. And just up in here too. And if you want to make more of this because it's closer, then you just can break some of that out a bit further, and then that settled down and away to nothing. Alright, I'm going to leave that for that at the moment and come back into there in a short while, I hope, and continue with that. I want to put in a little bit of dark in here, let that mix with that green a bit more, suggesting the rough edge of this, and we're going to bring in some little bits of light further on with this as well. Just change what we're seeing. And bring in a little bit of blue. Some darks up into there. A bit of rubbish that's growing up at that point. There you go. That works, I hope. Maybe one or two little bits of weeds that you can see emanating. I don't know what they'd be. Probably big nettles, huge nettle beds up around here, I'm sure. I know I've been stung on a few of them in the past. And bring some of this down through here. I'm going to play with this a little bit and just suggest that pink going into some of these edges, sort of fusing some of the pinks to the greens, and they work very, very well. I think I'm right in saying that people like Richard Schmid use these little tricks quite often with their greens and their lights and their edges, little tweaks of pink, working nicely as it were with the greens. So this red and green yin yang business of the edges, like so. Maybe lighten some up, but you get little breaks in there into the edge of the field. Something like that. And you can manipulate any of these shapes like so. You can just break up some of these edges like that and suggest that little bit of light that's running up the hill as the suggestion of the continuation of the farm track. So you can see it disappearing up the other side. There's a little light X of green down there. We can use that pink to do that too. So now we've got a couple of little forms, and then we can break into some of this. Now this green, we can use it in this fashion. We can break into it and we can run through the darks, and we've got the lights and the darks of the greens. We've got pinks and green working. All of these factors are working in our favour. We can bring that in, and the pinks and the reds are literally, because they're complementary, it's just singing your praises as it were. It works for you so well. And bring that through there. bring one or two more reddish versions in here. And again, if it becomes too red, we can use some greens to quell it, or we can use some yellows, make it more orangey, and then use some violets to quell it down. It really doesn't make a lot of odds. We're just literally suggesting all sorts. I'm going to put a bit of green in there now, and that will just work yet again with this whole area. And little taps, these lovely greens, just working with these pinks very, very well. Don't blend them all. We don't want to make a dirty grey colour with the two colours. His voice is fine, just for me, just a bit quiet. Paul, your voice has gone funny on the TV. Oh, really? Let me look into that. And let me see if there's a reason for that. I can't see any reason there. Maybe I've just gone quiet. I do apologise if I have. How am I now? Is it better, or is it just as bad? We had a problem with this before. I got to sort of look into seeing what I'm doing wrong, if indeed I'm doing anything wrong, but I don't know. I need to address it because obviously it will ruin your viewing. I don't want that to happen, of course. So we need to look into that. But let me know if the voice has gone. If anyone else is having problems with it, then please tell me, because it's only with your input do I know that something's not as it should be. Just coming in with one or two taps to suggest bits of this and that laying throughout the field at this point. Okay. Right, John. Sounds okay. Good. All right. Well, hopefully, Sylvia, it may just be you. Not in a horrible way, I'm sure. I don't mean that rudely, but hopefully it is just something at your end at the moment that may well, I hope, change in the near future. Because to my knowledge, I actually haven't changed anything here on this end at all. Although, you know, these things can happen. I'm going to put a bit of blue, pale blue, not that blue, a little bit of cobalt into that. Take it right the way down and just go up through this area here, just as though it's catching a little bit of light through the center of the track, disappearing, making it a really lovely little picture. I'm really enjoying this little study. Put a bit of blue in one or two places here. Now the thing about these blues and these pinks that I'm putting in, basically you've got a lot of these colours appearing elsewhere in the painting, and so you start to create, unknowingly, but you start creating a little bit of a situation of harmony, and that harmony excites the viewer. They know something is, or the brain is telling them that something's going on, and that it all looks nice, but they don't quite know why it all looks nice. And that probably is partly why, is because colours pick up all over this canvas, even to the if there's any still left here, these little bits of the oatmeal canvas are popping out in different places, here, and I'm not deliberately going over them to cover them all in, but they actually subliminally, the brain picks them up and it does unite them, and you know, because of that, it actually sort of creates that harmony, which is a good thing. It really is a great way for us to enjoy, you know, for people to excite and like a picture without fully understanding why they like it. So I'm going to bring one or two taps of something through here, so it's not just one line. Lots of little bits of nettle and stuff growing out of all this rubbish. That's enough. I'll make it pretty, too pretty. Alright, so where are we? I've got to be careful of the time. I'm conscious of overdoing it. I'm not sure how long I've been going for. Hour and 30. Okay, we will wrap this up, I hope, within the 2-hour mark. I need to make sure my brush is clean because I do need to just come back and check on this area here just to bring this back into there. Take that into there. Okay. Got a little pick up there, but not too much to worry it. Like that. Alright, that's enough. Just picked up, I've just seen a little bit of zest that just tapped out there. Take that off because I don't want that causing me a problem. Let's go back in and effect a very quick and very simple repair to that area, and that's all gone. Okay, now then, we pretty are much sorted out. What I'm going to start doing now is sky holes. Now, one other thing about sky holes is that if you put the same color value here, 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 or wherever you're putting them as on the outside, they will look even brighter. The idea of a sky hole is to show the sky or the background that's beyond the tree popping through, because obviously the tree is not one solid mass. You can see from the photograph, and you can see from my painting that I have left little bits and pieces for it. So to that end you do need them, but if you put them too light, then they will come back and cause you problems. And so you just want to put them 1 or 2 values. If this was a photograph, it would be like doing 1 or 2 stops under exposure. And when you put those little stops underexposed into your painting, they will come out looking as they should do, about right. So I'm just going to start putting in 1 or 2 of these marks and depositing them further around. There's a nice white cloud through this. I'm going to leave that. I want to pop in 1 or 2 areas in here, like so. Looking at different areas and seeing what the colour is behind and choosing a colour that's more appropriate for that point. You can come in and eat into the edges and shapes, but bear in mind every 2 or 3 taps you're going to have to go and clean your brush out and change what you see. I'm actually going to pick up a rigger and come back in with a rigger and use some of these colours and just deposit little taps. I'll need to pick up, not that blue, the wrong blue, come in with some of that blue, make some fresh colours up that we've pretty much lost. A bit of green, tap the red, blue and the red, make our violet again, and tap of our green was in that to mix that away to that lovely little grey colour. Check it again, check it against some of these, it's not too far off, it's a little bit red, so we can come in a bit more of the green and a bit more of the blue, and we can play around that, and we can come back in, and that's a lot closer. So now we can use this colour and we can come eating into some of these shapes in here and just bringing them in and break up the other edges, the negative spaces of this tree. Just gonna give that a little bit of an even out at that point. 1 or 2 little light marks coming in here. Right, so don't want to overdo it, but it is nice to get it looking good. Okay, and you start to build them. And I'm kind of a bit quiet, I do apologise. It's not your sound this time, it's me being quiet. Sound is perfect and clear in Worcester. Good. Suna, Ona, that is good for you. Thank you. Michael, sounds fine. Joan, loud and clear. Okay. Oh, okay, Sylvia, I'm sorry. It must be your end. I do apologise for that. Hopefully it will rectify very, very quickly. Going to use some of this lighter colour here just to come into some of those in area in here. Just 1 or 2 taps and marks through the centre of our tree. There's quite a few in here which I need to bring back. You can also think about the way the branches might be working inside. what you can see, what you can't see. So yeah, it's just a case of looking at your reference here. For instance, coming back in, put a bit of light in there. And more taps. Can take quite a while to get it right, but it is worth pursuing it. A few up in here. Maybe a few bluer ones in a moment, where it's sort of corresponding with this blue of the sky would be good too. But in the short term, let's just carry on playing around with some of these edges and breaking some of those up too. A lot of stiff paint going on, so I'm going to put some oil into that just to break it out a little easier. And it might take you ages to do this, and you know, again, you got to just be patient. It doesn't, you know, you're not going to paint this in 5 minutes in that sense, so you got to be patient with it. See how that light tap there is just out of place with that colour there, so I'm going to tap it out, come back in with a darker value and just go back in with that. Now that is probably a little closer to the truth as that breaks into these areas here. And just put one that is way too light for the situation and in the wrong place. Even some of these are getting close to being a little too light for what's going on. Because that's coming through there, I can just probably get away with it. And one or two areas up in here. Now this is not, in terms of painting, this is not what one would call a fresh painting. It's not a big vibrant statement of colour marks and nothing more. This is, you know, a little bit of bells and whistles, more refined, more care, considered, more exacting, and you know, it depends on the style of painting that you like to create and how you want your final piece to look. I'm quite happy with this in this fashion. It's working. Just softening some of these taps. Some can get a little bit hard. Just one, keep your fingers clean. Just a little tap just stops them being too hard. Some you'll lose by that, but it's not a big deal. There's quite a big light area through here which I want to put in. Come over some of those because they look as though they're actually light leaves, and I don't want that either. I'm just going to bring them darks back into that area. Okay. And a few darks up in here, suggesting some of that trunk that was not put in. A few darks in some of these lights too. Big old trunk that goes through this. It does split as well, but you don't see all of it, of course, in full leaf. You do see it all, of course, in winter. I painted this beautiful tree in winter. It's marvellous shape. Breaking some of these greens up and away with some darks now, coming back into the sky, one or two shapes. Then we will come in with some lights as well. Just some fresher lights here and there, not too many. Just trying to break up some of these larger, broader areas with other marks to break them out and make them look like clumps of leaves, some in shadow, some in light. Okay, got a bit of dark up in here that's been missed. I want to put some of that back in and just break up the sky. And create the edges and the finer little tweaks against the clouds themselves. And one or two down through here that have got a little bit lost. And you can create little sky holes this way too, because if you come out and say something like this, you can enclose an area and leave little areas of light. So you create natural sky holes by creating that in that fashion. Another little sky hole created there and there. Too dark, so I'm losing a bit of the dark. I'm just going to come back and remix them in a minute. Little tweaks here and there. Okay, create our own little sky holes further up. Some darks kind of come down through here. Almost neat ultramarine blue being used in some of it. I can see some lovely little places here that I can put a few more lights if I need them. Okay, I'm going to use some of that now. Clean the brush very quickly, put a bit of blue in, a little bit of that blue to make some of our sky colour just for a minute. Just come in with one or two areas of that lovely sky blue in there. And up into this area which I did leave, put them in. Tap, 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 just soften them. Yeah, I'm not too unhappy with that. Okay, let us now check some of these other areas that are going to come in with some of this green. Well, I've got this rigger on board, and I'm going to come in with a few light touches, maybe a bit paler as well, wouldn't go amiss. And let's just tap some little bits of rough grass that's pricking into some of these shadows, just breaking up some of those shadows. Breaking some into there, giving a bit more form, like that. Tap some that way and there. And you can come back into some of this too. Just play around with some of these shapes. Some darks, some sort of weed going on in there, a little bit of red, I don't know what kind of weed it might be. Let's put some like nettles or whatever they might be in this point. Okay, that works. And put one or two of those actually over on this side too, would be a miss. Just a few weeds and nettle beds. Want a bit of a thought. Lovely old nettle beds. Okay. Alright. I'm not going to put the pipes in there. They don't need to be in there at all. Put a few marks through here. It's good. Okay. I think there's a bush we need to put in. This one sort of shrubby thing up the side of the hill there. I'll put that in place. I'm sure there's a little bit at the top. There is a little one over there, but I never put that in my painting. There is just the tops of 2 or 3 bushes going across there, and there's never enough of them really worth doing in a painting, so I never put them in. Probably that's wrong of me, I don't know, but I don't put them in anyway. I don't see the need to. They don't bring enough to the party, as it were, to make a difference. I'm going to use some of that blue, and I'm just going to create that there and a little bit of a shadow situation of 1 or 2 of these bits in the foreground. Like that. And where are we time-wise? I have no idea. Hour and 46. We've got about a quarter of an hour, but I don't think we're going to actually need that amount of time. I'm sort of looking around and I want to put some highlights into our tree. I'm going to use some yellows into our greens that are already there. Should be enough of that to do. And I just want to pick out 1 or 2 little extra marks of light, not everywhere. The idea of a highlight is to make less of it, so it becomes more useful when you see it. I think that's probably a good way of describing it. 1 or 2 lights down through here. If you see too many highlights, then they cease to become a highlight. They just become, I suppose for want of a better description, an average light. So yes, be mindful. Highlights are few, but really worthwhile using. 1 or 2 taps, little larger taps. Okay, a little bit cooler in some of them. Right, I'm assuming we're still okay. Something went wrong with the sound on my end then. I think maybe I've got a touch of what Sylvia's got. My sound went. Oh dear, you can't make this up, can you? Right, I'm just going to put in 1 or 2 extra light taps here. I've cooled that green down. It got a little bit acidic, so I'm just cooled it down a little bit and make that work. And I'm not actually going to be so precious and make 2 smaller taps. I'm making little sort of clumps, little statements with the brush in this way. Little side, tap it down and drag it a little bit sideways like that, and just put a whole mass of leaves in at one time. You can always go back in the other way if you feel you've gone too far. There's not a big deal, but I just feel that 1 or 2 lights are needed. And up in the top here, 1 or 2 lights just catching the top of the sunshine on there. And again, more so over on this side. It's an enormous tree. No idea how big it really is, but it is big. Maybe, and this is why I went for this low horizon as the photograph, because you know you've got to get way back from it to make it look correct. So now we're just putting a few marks in across some of these branches where I put the trunk up through, just to break the whole thing up a little bit more. I think I've told most people, but Sue, if you didn't hear, I think I actually told you when I saw you the other day that we're going to be starting classes again at the gallery, but they are going to be starting at the end of June, and they won't be this Wednesday, but they will be as normal, I hope, week Wednesday. Something went off. Week Wednesday, I hope to have them back up and running. So it will be a case of wearing masks, certainly until everything goes off. I think the government are pretty likely to tell us that within the week we can go back to, or we can come down to, as it were, 1 meter distance. So if that's the case, then as I say, by the end of June we will be back in class. So I look forward to having as many of you back in as wish to come back. I hope that's all of you. Right, we're almost done with this tree. I mean, I could actually keep adding to it for quite a while, I think, but I don't want to do too much, and plus the fact that we've got to end this stream at some point as well. But I think that's working nicely. I'm trying to see over the top to see there's a dark area there, but there's a nice light area here which I need to just put in and break some of these lines out. There's a couple of lines that I'm not too happy with, and take them out. Take that down through there and leave the dark that you can see into there as it is, and maybe just a little bit of tapping of green on there. That's quite in darkness there. I want to leave that. There's a bit of light coming down through here. Tap some of that into the sky, like so. And I think our oak tree is pretty much painted. As I said just now, you can always do something else, and indeed I could look at this tomorrow and add something that I realized I've missed, but for the moment I think that looks quite okay. I'm just seeing if I want to lighten that green through there. I want to make that a bit pinkier, a bit paler, more dead grass going up there. So I'm going to come in with some pinks, just take that away a little bit. I wasn't too happy with that, and I think that sort of goes up into there a little bit more, like that. I quite like that. And what I didn't do, and I should do, is there is a contour line I tried to paint through there. I'm going to suggest a little bit more of that by putting in there, like that. You can see some little striations of grasses that are growing up into the corn, like that. Very, very subtle. Little couple coming over the top of the hill, and then one or two more over that ridge, as it were, and then coming down into the foreground part of the field here, just giving rise to a little bit of grass, a little bit of dirt matter sort of growing up into this field, as often does. And then there's quite a nice greenish mark up through here, which we want to put in, and that goes all the way up to the top there. And I've got to put it in. There is some sort of bushy thing right on the top there. Let's put that in. In fact, okay, let's just bite the bullet and let's make a little bit of a statement with these little tree things in the far distance. Cool it down a little bit. Don't want it dark, but I don't want it too warm. One there, and there's another one about there, and of course that one there. I bit the bullet and I've done it, and it's okay. I'll live with that. It's all good. Sounds good. We'll have to get me a mask. Yes, just get one of these cloth ones. You can. They're not so bad, some of these, and other than the paper ones. Get a nice little cloth one, even one you make yourself, and you know it's just easy. Chuck it into the washing machine at the end of it, and it's all ready for next time. So you might be able to go train spotting again, Luke. That's a great one. Good. And your videos will change as well. So you'll start putting out some of these spotting videos, which is really nice sometimes. Just going to add a little bit of light into one or two of these areas here. Looks like a little bit of the sort of green has got worn away, and there's stuff going up. People walk up through there. I'm not quite sure really. Just one or two areas of light into here just to break this foreground up a little bit. Bit of pink, bit of violet into there. Just breaking up that edge like so. And a little bit down in here. This reminds me of, I love this sort of painting because it reminds me of some of my other African paintings that I used to do. I love breaking around with a bit of ground and a bit of foreground, just messing it up and changing it. I come in with a bit of darker value of green just in here, just to suggest a few tufts. Not dark enough. Just come in with another value, just change that a little bit more. Like that. Okay, let that run along the edge. And I think we're pretty much done. I've left the sky fairly simple, and the clouds have formed their own. I'm tempted to put a little bit of warmth into them, but I think there's warmth through here and one or two other places, and probably sufficient. If I start messing around too much, then I'm going to start going the wrong way with it. But every time I look at it, I'm thinking, I just want to add a little bit of warmth. And and this is where I go very, very badly wrong, and I add some warmth and then wish I hadn't. I'm going to put a little bit of pinky red into there just to give that a little influence. I'm going to have to do it over here too, just to continue a little bit more of some harmony. Oh my lord, look at that. See, I told you I would regret it. And not for the reasons that I said to you, but it still could have been avoided. Easy rectified, but could have been avoided all the way. It happens. There we go. We'll live with that. Do I go again? Go on then. Let's have another crack. Let's put something through there. It's just little tweaks of other value colours, just to give it a sense of that little sense of warmth in the cloud. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not sure about this part. There's a little bit that I need to change. I'm just going to break that up a little bit there. That's fine. I'm happy with that. Alright, so we are at 2 hours, people. So I don't want to go too much over. One lovely gentleman made a comment that the long ones weren't for him, which is fair enough, but it made me wary. I left the comment in place actually. I didn't take it down. Everyone's entitled to their comment and their thoughts. I got a little bit of brush picked up a little bit of blue there. I'm going to have to repair that. Yes, so I was mindful of that, and you know, it sort of brought it home to me that you do have to be careful about the amount of time one takes and what people are prepared to watch and put up with. And I know many of you don't mind the long ones, but yeah, anyway, so I am a little mindful of going over that 2 hour mark with some of these, but that's got I'm talking away and I'm not doing what I should be doing. Come on, let's come back in there and repair that properly. Right, last thing I want to do, and I haven't done yet, and I'm going to do it right now before we finish off. And that is, I'm going to put in some nice white, a tap of yellow, lovely white edges that puff off. So this is where I love this deep blue and white situation, because I'm coming back in with this, but I'm going to bring some of these off like this, and I'm just going to tap them around, make sure my fingers are clean and not do what I did just now. Just tapping off some of these shapes as they sort of break away from the main cloud and give this wonderful sense of light and dark. Come in and reinforce one or two of them, and you get these lovely little breakaways. I suppose that's probably a scientific name for them, but I'm calling them breakaways. But they're just little puffs of cloud that have broken away from it or whatever, and they just look so beautiful against the blue. So, and like the tree, they've got lovely soft edges. They're not this hard edge. Sometimes they are, but in this case this isn't. So I'm just going to bring one or two areas that are sort of just bringing it around to the edge, breaking up our lovely cloud a little bit more. As it's building, I don't know if it's bringing red, I can't remember actually now. It's been a while since I did this photograph. Bring that through there. Break up those edges. Make that a little more solid. Being very, very soft with the brush. Don't pick up too much of anything really. Not too much yellow, not too much blue. Just enough of what I need to make this really bounce out with light where I want it to. And here too we've got a bit more in here, which we'll just put that in. Take off the edge of that blue, it's going to contaminate everything else you've got. Bring some of that in there like so. And 2 bits off the edge. And it starts to build the whole of the sky up now. I'm going to bring in a bit of white under there, which we have lost. The edge of the tree, and that goes into that grey. 1 or 2 down here that have been sidelined. Put those in. One or 2 in here. Nice and fresh marks. And up in here, a nice strong bright colour of white in there, which has been lost into there. Big bold statement. Build some of these up. Quite a bit of light underneath this, so let's bring that in too. And this is the last part of our painting. So I'm just going to bring that in there and a little bit of light there, suggesting that there's a cloud underneath that dark grey. And bring that in there like so. These are coming down lighter to the horizon, and that will then give that a lovely hard edge against the edge of there, which is good. A bit of light into that, and then they lift away and go away from another build, I suppose. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's sort of building up more. And the same on this side, again it's been neglected, so let's just come back in and put some lights into there. Pick up some lovely white, and it's so much nicer working with this white that is a bit freer. The other tube was just way too stiff, very hard to deal with. So we've got this other one, and it is working very, very nicely tonight. And a couple more lights just down on here. Nicely against that little bush, actually that worked. I'm glad I saw it in time. Very nearly didn't and almost painted it out, but that just highlights that little bush beautifully. that's good. I'm quite happy with that. Let's just look at some of these a little bit, change some of the forms and shapes to the edge of this one. As it comes up, it's got a nice lovely lumpy bulbous bit around here that's billowing out. Bring it down and let that go into there like so, and that we've dealt with. There's a little light area there which we can just add in a little bit more light to it like so, and then that can come down and into the cloud form at that point. And we're into the last bit. There's one or two areas. This has got a significant point to it here. I'm just going to tap that in. One or two light marks in here. Like so, drifting away. I love painting my clouds, I've got to say. It's just so much fun creating everything that you see every day in a cloud and just putting it into a painting like this. It's just marvellous to be able to study them, watch them and add them into a painting and make them work. Just adding one or two little taps into this blue is really the best part of it, because they really stand out against that blue paint. I could do more over here, but I don't really want to. I'm going to leave them just on this side. One or two areas just to bring that into there. Let's give that a little bit of clarity. And I think we're sorted. I think we're done. Okay. I think we're sorted out. Right, well. I'm just going to sign it and take a look at it while we just round off. Just going to put a signature down in this bottom corner. There we are. Okay. I'm just going to drag out my reference so I can see everything that you're seeing. I hope. There we are. And a final glug of my lovely light ale. Thank you very much. Let's have a look at the comments very quickly. Okay, look, I've not been looking at lots of videos of late. I've been so busy with other things. So I'm going to take a few looks at yours. That's good. Enjoy the longer streams, Wendy says. It's good to see the painting to the end, and if I ever felt like watch it all live. And you can watch it at the time. Yeah, that's true. Hello, Ben. Very late tonight. Couldn't miss out on just in time for the signing. We certainly get some super skies here. Very inspiring painting. Thank you. Yeah, no, I've enjoyed it. And despite the colours all over my t-shirt, I've had a lot of fun with this. And yeah, I'm not unhappy with this painting at all. Hopefully that there seems to be a line here and I can't see, not on my painting, but it seems to be something. Maybe the painting that you're seeing hasn't quite joined up. So what time have we been going? Can somebody tell me? Because I've got one clock saying 2 hours 17, another one says 2 hours and 9, so I'm not quite sure where we are at. But maybe you can tell me. There are more comments. Let's read all of those. John, another successor. Thank you very much, John. It's another amazing painting, Paul. Really nice. Thank you. James, thank you for that lovely comment. Teresa, I appreciate the opportunity to watch you paint. That's great, Teresa. Thank you. And all the time people like it, I'll keep doing it. It's as simple as that. I really do have a whole heap of fun with this. And I don't want that to stop, to be quite honest with you. Joan, fascinating watching you. Thank you, Joan. Thank you so much. Sylvia, are you still with us? Did you get to see all of that? We're at 2 hours. Okay, I've got a clock saying 2 hours 10, one saying 2 hours 17. Yeah, I have no idea. I think next week I'm going to just put a little clock on one side so I can really see how long we've been going. Michael, thank you so much. I'm glad. John, you got 2 hours 10 minutes, the same as one of mine. Derek, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it, my man. That's really kind of you to join us. Lovely English summer's day in the countryside. Can't imagine sitting in the shade of the oak, enjoying a picnic and listening to skylarks singing in the overhead. Yeah, all of that, Wendy. Totally agree with you. It is a wonderful oak tree, got to be said. It really is. And if any of you know Saltwood, seek it out and take a walk out through the fields over the top there and enjoy what I used to enjoy. I haven't been there for so long, but it is a really great place to go. So yeah, where are we? Okay, so Monday, Friday, watercolor night. I'm not sure what I'm going to paint yet. Anybody got any suggestions? Please put them in the comment section. Let me see them. I'm not going to guarantee I do one of them, but if something there is said that floats my boat, I will have a go at it. But I will be doing a watercolor on Friday, and yeah, I hope you'll all join me for that and a few more. We're a little bit low on people tonight. It could be because it's an oil and watercolors get more favor, it seems, as tutorials than oils. I don't know why that should be, but it does seem to be that way. Yeah, that's true enough, John. You're right. It is 21:08 on my other clock. So yes. So anyway, I digress. But it'll be a watercolor, and hopefully we'll be up to our numbers. We sort of only had about 15 to 18. I think at one point we hit 20. And I'm not sure if it shows everybody there or if people come in, they go off and come back. I don't know. But whatever the reasons, I do hope people are enjoying it, and I know you guys that are on the chat do, and I thank you very much for that, even if like some of them only turn up right in the last minute, but we won't say too much about that, will we, Ben? Yeah, so where are we? Thank you for great tips on painting green sky holes. It's very helpful. Yeah, just keep those sky holes a little bit under the general colors that you're mimicking, and it will work very well. I think my original painting there seems to have frozen at a certain stage, which it's different to the one I'm looking at now, but I'm not worried. All right, guys, well, we've gone over the 2 hours by a little bit, and I thank you all of you so much for joining me and spending your Monday evening with me. And yeah, I hopefully look forward to seeing each and every one of you on Friday evening, and where we will go through and have another evening together, and we'll complete another painting. So I'm looking forward to it, but I have no idea yet what it's going to be of. We shall wait and see, but I do enjoy it, so, and I know you guys do, and I thank you for that and the support that you give me and the channel. And I've got to say, we are almost at 4,000 hours watches, which is the requirement for YouTube to monetize the channel. We are about 80 hours off, 85 hours this morning, so that is all extremely good news, and I do hope that by the end of Friday's stream we will have broken that last threshold, and then that'll be great. and that'll be fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. We've worked so hard this last year to make it happen. Okay, Derek, thank you. All the best. Good night. Mark, thank you for joining. Good night to you too. And just looking for a bit of towel just to clean my filthy hands. And I'll see each and every one of you on Friday evening. Look forward to it. Alright guys, I'm going to turn the chat off now and say goodbyes to each other. And I say goodbye to each and every one of you. And that'll be it for tonight. Bye, James. Take care, mate. John, take care. See you Friday. Ben, you can't go yet. You've only just got here. Ha. Good night, all. Take care. Bye-bye.